The Arabian Sea, May 2nd, 2026. Pre-dawn aboard the USS Tripoli. On the flight deck, an AH-1Z Viper attack helicopter sits with rotors folded, pre-flight complete, pilots briefed. In the well deck below, amphibious combat vehicles weight loaded, ramps ready. Battalion Landing Team 3R1 has rehearsed the coastal assault sequence 14 times since leaving Okinawa. Every Marine on this ship knows exactly what the mission looks like. Nobody has given the order. 20 miles south, aboard the USS Boxer, another 2,500 Marines wait in exactly the same position. 5,000 Marines total. 2 assault ships, 3 transport vessels. The most capable amphibious force the United States has put in theater since the Iraq War. Sitting, watching the Strait of Hormuz from the outside. Everyone is talking about carriers, airstrikes, and naval blockades. Nobody is asking why the key to the lock is sitting 20 miles offshore. And the order to turn it has not come. To understand why the Marines are still on the ship, you have to understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is at a tactical level, and not a political nor a physical one. The strait is 6 miles wide at its narrowest navigable point. The Iranian coastline that flanks it stretches roughly 1,500 kilometers. Dotted with islands, Iran has spent decades converting into hardened military positions. Abu Musa, the Greater and Lesser Tums, Chesham Island. Dozens of smaller outcroppings. What sits on those islands is the entire problem. Nor anti-ship missiles with a range of 170 kilometers. Goddard-class midget submarines operating in water too shallow for U.S. destroyers to safely enter. An estimated 5,000 naval mines, a number U.S. analysts have called catastrophic if fully deployed. The U.S. Air Force and Navy have spent 63 days bombing these positions from altitude. They have had real effect. Iranian naval assets are significantly degraded, but degraded is not destroyed. And here is the physics problem that no amount of carrier-based airstrikes solves. You cannot clear a coastline from 30,000 feet. You cannot confirm a minefield is neutralized from a destroyer's sensor suite. You cannot hold terrain from the air. That is a Marine problem. Marines exist to cross water under fire, seize coastal terrain, and hold it long enough for the strategic objective to be achieved. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit is trained specifically for maritime platform seizure. The AH-1Z Viper is built for the low-altitude close air support that coastal island clearing requires. MV-22 Ospreys insert assault teams at 280 knots. Amphibious combat vehicles hit a beach in the dark. The Navy has been trying to open a locked door by shooting at the wall. The Marines are the key. They are sitting in the lock. And the order to turn has not come. To understand what the United States is holding back, you need the inventory, not the headline, but the hulls. The USS Tripoli is an America-class amphibious assault ship, 844 feet long, 45,000 tons at full load. In 2022, Tripoli set a record embarking 16 F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters simultaneously, more fixed-wing combat aircraft than most nations field in their entire air force. For this deployment, it carries the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, 3,500 Marines, a reinforced infantry battalion, a composite aviation squadron, a full logistics combat element capable of sustaining independent operations ashore for 15 days without resupply. 20 miles south, the USS Boxer, a Wasp-class amphibious assault ship carrying the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, 2,500 Marines trained in amphibious assault, maritime security, and direct action. Boxer departed San Diego 3 weeks ahead of schedule, crossed the Strait of Malacca at 19 knots, nearly full speed. CENTCOM wanted them here fast. The supporting vessels do not get the headlines. They should. The USS Portland and the USS New Orleans. San Antonio-class amphibious transport docks with advanced command, control, and intelligence systems built into the hull. The USS Comstock, a Whidbey Island-class dock landing ship that deploys landing craft air cushion vehicles, hovercraft capable of putting a 60-ton M1 Abrams tank across a beach in under 4 minutes. Combine the totals: 5,000 Marines, 2 assault ships, 3 transport vessels, dozens of attack helicopters, tiltrotors, and stealth fighters. Enough amphibious lift to seize and hold multiple coastal positions simultaneously in the dark against opposition. This is not a patrol force. This is not a presence mission. This is not a show of flag. This is an invasion-capable force held at anchor, loaded, certified, 20 miles from the Iranian coast, waiting on a single order that has not come. To understand why the Marines are the answer, you have to understand why bombing was not. February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. Nearly 900 airstrikes in the first 12 hours. Iranian missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure, leadership. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed in the opening wave. The objective was direct: break Iran's military capacity fast, force the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz before global energy markets collapsed. It did not work, not completely. The number that defines the failure. Before Epic Fury, roughly 1,229 ships transited the strait every month. By early March, that number had dropped to 77. 20% of the world's oil supply bottled up. Lloyd's of London revoked war risk coverage in the corridor. Tanker operators pulled their vessels overnight. The strait did not close by military force. It closed by market force. The Navy did not stop. It destroyed an estimated 158 Iranian naval vessels in the weeks that followed. It bombed Karg Island, the hub processing 90% of Iran's crude exports. It deployed 3 carrier strike groups to the region simultaneously: the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the USS George H.W. Bush. A level of carrier concentration not seen since the Gulf War. It imposed a full naval blockade of Iranian ports beginning April 13th. And the strait is still not open. This is not a failure of firepower. The United States has delivered firepower. This is a different problem entirely. Iran does not need a navy to hold the Strait of Hormuz. It needs mines, fast attack boats, and coastal missile batteries hidden in mountain tunnels. And that is exactly what it has. The Marines are the answer to that problem. The question this entire script is built around is why nobody is using them. Before you assume Iran is bluffing, look at what Iran has actually done since the ceasefire began on April 7th. Tehran's strategy has been disciplined. Maintain enough control over the strait to preserve leverage without triggering a full resumption of U.S. bombing. Every move calibrated. Every line drawn deliberately. The first move. Iran began charging $1 million per ship to transit the strait. This was not random. It was a signal that Iran intends to monetize the waterway permanently, war or no war. The second move. Iran's military stated explicitly that any U.S. vessel entering the strait would be considered a ceasefire violation, a line drawn specifically to make U.S. military action politically costly before the first round is fired. The third move is the one that matters most. Iran has admitted openly that it lost track of some of the mines it placed in the strait. This is not a confession of incompetence. It is a warning. Even if Iran wanted to fully reopen the strait tomorrow, it may not be able to guarantee safe passage. That uncertainty alone is enough to keep commercial shipping out. And it hands Iran a form of passive leverage that does not require firing a single missile. Then there is the threat that sits behind everything. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has explicitly warned that any resumption of U.S. strikes will trigger Iranian attacks on Gulf Arab energy infrastructure, Saudi pipelines, UAE export terminals, Bahraini facilities. In 2019, Iran demonstrated it can strike Saudi Aramco infrastructure with precision. These are not bluffs. Run the cascade. U.S. Marines clear Iranian coastal positions. Iran responds by destroying Gulf energy infrastructure. The global oil crisis does not end. It deepens. Iran is not holding the strait open, but it is making the cost of forcing it open very, very high. Here is the answer to the question this entire script is built around, and it is not the answer most analysts give. The Marines have not been deployed because their deployment is currently worth more as a threat than as an operation. 5,000 Marines sitting 20 miles from the Iranian coastline, fully loaded, fully certified, fully ready. That is a pressure instrument. The moment they move, that pressure is spent. A Marine in the well deck is leverage. A Marine on the beach is a war. The United States is not using one pressure instrument at Hormuz. It is using 4 in parallel. The naval blockade cutting off 90% of Iran's seaborne trade. The standing threat of resumed airstrikes. The Pakistani-mediated negotiations running quietly in the background. And the silent presence of the Marine force 20 miles offshore. Each amplifies the others. Remove one, and all 4 weaken. Goldman Sachs Global Affairs head Jared Cohen described the current standoff as a game of geopolitical chicken where both sides hold the same theory. That the other side will swerve first. Trump wants Iran to blink economically. Iran wants the United States to blink politically, knowing a restart of the war faces a 61% domestic disapproval rating and a war powers resolution fight in Congress. In that context, a Marine assault on Iranian coastal islands is simultaneously the most effective tactical move and the most costly strategic one. Effective because it would clear the coastline. Costly because it would restart the war, end the ceasefire, potentially trigger Iranian strikes on Gulf infrastructure, and require congressional authorization the administration has argued it does not need. The Marines are not being held back because the Navy cannot use them. They are being held back because they are worth more in the well deck than on the beach. 3 roads lead out from where the Marines are sitting tonight. 2 of them resolve. 1 of them does not. The one that does not is the one that should concern you most. Scenario A. The negotiated reopen. Iran accepts a deal through Pakistani mediation in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The naval blockade lifts. Iran agrees to supervised mine clearance, critical, given that Iran has admitted losing track of some of its own mines. Commercial shipping resumes. The Marines return to normal rotational posture without having fired a shot. This is the outcome the Trump administration wants. It requires Iran to accept that its economy cannot survive the U.S. blockade indefinitely. 90% of Iran's trade moves by sea. Scenario C, the restart. Negotiations collapse. The order comes. The Marines execute amphibious operations against Iranian coastal islands and Karg Island. Iran retaliates against Gulf Arab energy infrastructure and closes the Bab al-Mandab with Houthi support. The global oil crisis deepens. Congress forces a war powers vote. The war that was supposed to last 4 to 6 weeks enters its 5th month. Scenario B, the sloppy peace. Iran maintains partial, informal control of the strait, ships transit, but Iran can close it again at any time for any reason. No formal agreement, no permanent reopening, no clean outcome. The Marines stay in theater indefinitely because the threat never fully resolves. The blockade stays technically in place but selectively enforced. Iran retains an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 operational missiles. It moved to new locations during the ceasefire. Assets the United States cannot target without restarting the war. Scenario B is not dramatic. That is exactly what makes it dangerous. Neither side wins, neither side loses. And the global energy market spends the next decade building around a strait that can be closed again tomorrow. Before dawn on the USS Tripoli, the AH-1Z Vipers are still on the flight deck. The amphibious combat vehicles are still loaded in the well deck. Battalion Landing Team 301 still knows exactly what the mission looks like. Nobody has given the order. The question was never whether the United States has the force to open the Strait of Hormuz. It clearly does. The question was whether deploying that force achieves the strategic objective or replaces one crisis with a larger one. Here is the real lesson from 63 days of this conflict. The Strait of Hormuz was never just a waterway. It is a leverage instrument. Iran figured that out in the first 24 hours. The United States is still deciding how to take it back without handing Iran a different kind of leverage in return. 5,000 Marines are the answer to the tactical problem. Nobody has solved the strategic one yet.